It's Dr. Tennant's Verbal Highs. Let's start the show with Lewis Tennant. Here we go. Guests and interviews that you're looking for with creators, innovators, and so much more. For all episodes and further info, verbalhighs.com is the place to go.
Welcome to Dr. Tennant's Verbal Highs, a podcast podcasted from a kitchen bench in Kingsland, which is in Auckland, which is in New Zealand. My name is Lewis and I'm your host. If you're new here, perhaps on the stand-up comedy guest tip, hi. I'll talk about some of the other stand-up guests I've had in presently. If you're a regular, thanks for dropping by again. For regulars, bit of I'm relaxed about it. I'm relaxed about it. I'm at a point of my life where I can manoeuvre myself comfortably in unexpected situations. But this said podcast gaff location is actually the second longest period of time I have lived anywhere since 87 Onipu Road in Lyell Bay, which I grew up in from the age of about 6. It would have to be till about the second year of uni. So I've got to the point here where I'm comfy as, bro. Kind of feels like I own it, but I don't. The reality for a lot of us in this modern world, the landlord overall has been a great landlord. I think I'm still paying pretty good rent here in the scheme of things. But he emailed me late last night and said he has sold it, but not to worry because the new types of people that are looking to buy or something along these lines are people who want permanent tenants, so that we wouldn't end up homeless, being everyone in the building. But you never know, you never know what happens when things change hands. Not sure what to do. Anyone had that experience? How did it play out? Did the rent go up hugely? That's the other thing. You might either get moved on or the rent goes up. I think I've been here. I started here in 2012. It's a long time. As I say, somewhat strangely, I kind of do feel like I own it. And I was thinking, because a little birdie told me he was thinking of selling, and I was thinking maybe he'll sell just my part of the building. There's not been a podcast guest who's come in, well, except for one, but he had a lot on his plate, who's not said straight away, what a great space you have here. That's 60 plus people. So we'll see how that plays out. My guest today, fantastic chat, funnily enough, Mr. Jamie Bowen, stand-up comedian. I met him at that Max comp I entered a while ago. Some of you may remember, to win a trip for two to Pinburg. Max Brewery, Max Beer sponsored a pinball comp, and I ended up one-on-one in the finals with New Zealand's best player. But it was a great experience, but I thought Jamie was a great MC, and we had some drinks afterwards, and I thought great guest, and always on the hustle. I said, come on in, and then it probably... a few months passed and so on. So he came in, and when I've had Alan McElroy in, Irish stand-up comedian. I've had Justine in just recently. I've had Di in. I've had Brendan Lovegrove in, and that like I'd like to think with all the episodes, they've got a great level of depth and insight into the person and kind of life in general. But you still kind of have to be kind of match fit. I often feel when I'm speaking to comics that they're in that. They're in that orator zone that I was probably a match fit for in my days of doing a breakfast radio show every day. So I started this one with Jamie, and I thought, oh my gosh, I'm a bit flat here, but it wasn't at all, because in fact what Jamie and I started talking about, a lot of which is some of the struggles he's had recently, as well as triumphs. I thought it was quite a lovely story all up. It was positive, but I have a listen for yourself. I just thought, as I say, that it's got a nice kind of slow burning yet quite satisfying energy to it, this episode. And little did I know, the human condition. It's what I love about podcasts. I've said it before. People coming in and sharing not only about their kind of career and a bit of japes and malarkey, but actually talking about what's going on with them, which Jamie did. He told me something off air, which is pretty amazing. You might be hearing some big news from that man shortly. But yeah, as I say, I won't give too much away, but when I met him at the Max Comp, I would have had no idea that his kind of existential crisis was near boiling point at that point. But as I say, it emerges a really positive story. And he's really talented, and I've not seen him live, which is a bit shit of me, but the clips online are fantastic. Great rhythm and pace, and a wordsmith, and smart jokes too. So, just quickly, shameless self-promotion. As I say, if you come here just new on the stand-up tip, I'll repeat it again. I've had Alan McElroy, Brendan Lovegrove, Justine Smith, Di Henwood, and Jamie for this ep, as well as the head honcho geezer, owner of the Classic, who's recently got some. I think I got a sporran, got some sort of thing to attach to his body from the Queen, Mr. Scott Blanks. What else? What else should just get this episode up, really, That's probably annoying. One episode every 10 days is what I need, folks. It's turned into last year, aka the first series where I tried to get 50 up in a year and put 3 or 4 up in the last week. But yeah, one every 10 days. Had quite a high-profile New Zealander stand me up the other day, which is a bit of a bummer because I got a little bit more thorough than usual and did a whole lot of research, and then sat by Skype. Was going to do my first Skype one, and nothing happened. But he's got a lot on, so I'll just gently nudge him again. Trying to get very busy people to take over an hour for Nada out of their life is a thing. So I was stoked he said yes to begin with. We're kind of part way there. Okay. I don't really market this thing. If anyone's got any bright ideas on how to market this thing, get it outside of you beautiful people. You can like and share it. That can be your payment. That's marketing. But if you've got any other ideas, verbalhighs@gmail.com. Follow me, Verbal Highs podcast on Facebook, Verbal Highs on Twitter, and Corporate Monolith, ruler of the podcast world, iTunes. Lovely if you could subscribe there, but more importantly, leave 5 stars, 4 if you're feeling a bit, and a comment. I haven't had a comment there for a while. That'd be nice. Where are we at now? 6 minutes 30. Oh, that's good. That's the 3 minutes I set out for. Here's Jamie. Oh, thanks to Hallertau, and thanks to Dave from Hallertau. Great man, supporting lots of local projects around about the place, including sending me a liquid bubbly subscription, as he calls it, for this podcast.
This is Dr. Tannen's Verbal Highs.
I guess, no, that's fine.
Sounds okay.
You sound great.
Great, man.
You sound great.
I can talk louder if needs be.
No, I like that.
But conversationally, I tend to be around about this sort of octave.
Your mic placement is, it's beautiful.
Thank you. It's taken me 20 years to perfect, but I think I'm finally starting to get the swing of it.
Well, if you're...
I'm going to take my glasses off so that there's less of a window between you and I. Let's connect. Let's connect as human beings. I
want to say, if you're recording for high-profile corporate clients in hotel rooms globally, that your condenser microphone technique would be... do you take a little stand?
I do take a little stand, and the secret that I've found is to record all of your voice work in your hotel room under your duvet.
Just
like as much duvet, you want as much duvet around you as possible, so it gets very hot very quickly. But that's the best way to stop the sound waves from bouncing around in your hotel room.
Do you make a little, like when you're a kid and you make a tent? Like
I do.
Right,
I do. I build a fort.
Have you ever had trouble with structural integrity halfway through?
Absolutely. Yeah, you betcha. But it just ends up, the easiest way to go about it is to just throw the duvet over your head, sit there, hold your microphone. Be very, very quiet.
Hey, so on Friday when I messaged you, you said you were in Sydney editing your special?
Yes.
And it got me thinking, the special and the New Zealand comedian. How many New Zealand comedians are is there a tradition of specials here as such? Or does that sort of come off the back of the whole Netflix specials that aren't even specials anymore because people are doing 8 a year?
Yeah, so I think
that's an exaggeration.
I think it's like, it's I don't know. It was just I wanted to make one. I wanted to have a go at making one. No one was going to give me a hand to do that, so I had to self-fund it and self-organise it.
Wow.
Because I just wanted to. I spent the last couple of years doing a few shows that have been about really sort of personal stuff, and it was an interesting product, I thought. At the end of the sort of years, and I wanted to do something with it. So, a friend of mine and I got talking. He's a director. We bumped into each other, and again, having lost touch. We were we used to go to school together and we'd go watch punk rock shows and shit like that together.
Yeah.
And he'd gone off and become a director, and we got talking about it. And it just sort of clicked him. So yeah, just made this thing, and then we found an editor in Sydney that was prepared to take the project on, and so it's a hell of a project. It was like 5-camera shoot.
Wow!
Plus 2 to 3 hours of interview footage.
Oh, so it's a on stage special, but interspersed with you kind of philosophizing off stage.
I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have trouble describing it, but I think the way that we've sort of been talking about it so far is it's like a documentary / special somehow.
It's so cool. So that must be the first of its type to come out of New Zealand.
I have no idea. No idea.
I reckon I can't recall anything like that. Good on you, man.
Yeah,
and
man.
So you had to get 5 camera people in. That's no small task. So I'm guessing that you put it all into one show. I know that sometimes people will have the budget to do like 3 shows and cut between. Did you put it all on Red? Or
we talked about it, but we decided to put it all on Red because whatever you get is more genuine. I have So like the stand-up specials that I see and that I really love are the ones that are the least polished. I think the less polished and the more naturalised and the more gritty, the better the comedy reads. And so I didn't want to do 2 shows and pick all the slick parts. I just wanted to do it, and if I fucked it up, then that's just what it was going to be.
Cuts to the section of the audience, and the more eagle-eyed go, "Hey, that's a different guy sitting there."
Yeah. So we didn't want to have anything disingenuine like that.
Yeah,
we just wanted to, because I'd had the show running at its hour and a half long length for about like a year or so, and I was pretty comfortable doing it by that point. And so yeah, we just did 2.
Where'd you record it? The Classic?
At the Classic, yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, which was good because I've got experience filming stuff at the Classic, having done a night at the Classic all those years ago.
Right.
And also because I've been raised in that room as a human.
Yeah, like a lot of people have had through in your
your
racket.
I've spent 20 years inside that room.
Amazing.
It's incredible.
And how do you? I mean, that's the other question these days: is how do you release it? Vinyl.
Yeah, 8-track.
Oh no, wait, it's not Wellington.
Specifically on 8-track.
Vinyl with a free 6-pack of craft beer.
There's a potential that I'm going to end up with 2 products out of it. One of them could be just an audio recording of the show. And just leave the stand-up be as a live album, which is an interesting show in and of itself. And then the other version is this documentary kind of thing that we're putting together. But in terms of releasing it, I've got no idea.
Yeah. Oh, you got this far. I don't. And it sounds like something that Tally might even have a look into, right?
Maybe, but I want to have as much control over the product as I possibly can.
Yeah.
Because my experience is every time I'm completely in control of my own product, it works. And as soon as I bring in other people or other factors into my work, I inevitably fail. And it's not personally satisfying anymore. So I'm just like, well, no one's going to make this thing for me. I'm just going to make this thing myself.
And 20 years into the game now, it's like that's actually a lot easier to do now, right? To just my own terms. Punk, as you talked about,
the return on investment now is amazing.
Yeah.
For so little investment, the product that you're able to make. So, like, this project's starting to inch up closer towards 20 grand.
Wow.
Maybe.
Yeah. And back in the day,
by the time we finish it, in the day, that would have been you'd be looking at 60 to 80.
Right.
And that's maybe only 10 years ago.
Yeah, I believe it. I think everything started changing in 07, 08.
Yeah, so that was part of the other reason for wanting to do it, was because I could make it happen and I could do it with some mates and I could have full control over the whole process.
Do you people aren't? Are you a podcast listener? And if so, do you like a lot of the biggest in the world are stand-ups, right? Like Rogan and Maron. And I don't know if you listen to Adam Buxton, the UK one.
I'm familiar with Adam, but I haven't.
He's got a great podcast. Anyway, because not only do I like stand-up comedy, but it's shows like that that got me hopelessly addicted to podcasting and eventually led me here. So as a part of them just waxing lyrical about the world in general, I've learned a lot about stand-up behind the scenes.
Right.
And I feel like I know that. A lot of people have, based on their listenership globally. Like, have you noticed a sort of an increase in interest in stand-up in New Zealand?
I've noticed an increase an interest, definitely. And I think from a global point of view, you're absolutely right. I mean, Joe Rogan's audience reach is astounding. He's 3 million followers on Instagram. I mean, that reach is incredible.
Yeah.
And it's a guy who's just gone, I'm just going to do this thing and just make it happen. So I've definitely noticed an uptick in New Zealand. I think that probably started about 10 years ago for us, when we started getting things like 7 Days on television.
Yeah, yeah.
And Night at the Classic to some limited extent as well. But that was kind of the first point, I think, when, all of a sudden it kind of went bigger.
Yeah, yeah.
And then TV wanted more comedians, and it was more comedians. And then all of a sudden comedians were getting acting stuff. And so it's just, I think over the last 10 years especially, things have really opened up. I mean, you can't deny the influence that Rhys Darby and Flight of the Conchords had on awareness as well of New Zealand comedy.
Yeah.
And then Taika's presence in the community too.
Or even just the age of kind of stand-up as we know it now in New Zealand. It sort of makes sense. Like when I had Scott on, talking about from the early 80s to sort of 90s, first stand-up, and then now, I guess it's just been around long enough now.
Yeah,
It's sort of grown up, right?
So I during the festival this year, I had this really beautiful moment where I was standing with Kylie, and I was standing with Kylie and a couple of... Anyway, I worked out it was like 3 generations of festival directors.
Yeah.
And then they were like, oh yeah, so you're the first of our babies. And I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, you were like 20 years ago. You're like one of our first little babies. Like, you look at you, you've all grown up. I was like, oh man, 20 years. Holy shit.
Hold that thought. We will go back 20 years in just a second. I should say who I've got here, folks.
Hey.
I've got Jamie Bowen with me. He's a comedian, performer, and writer who has appeared in over a dozen international comedy festivals, has performed around and about the world, and on telly shows like 7 Days Comedy Gala and Aotearoa. And I like this. He's been nominated for every comedy award in New Zealand and hasn't won any of them.
That's right.
So list what you haven't won. The Billy Tees?
I didn't win the Billy Tees.
Yeah.
I didn't win the Billy Tees 4 times. Thank
Congratulations.
you. I didn't win the Fred Award twice.
Congratulations.
I didn't win Best Male Comedian. I didn't win... I don't know, most of them. I didn't win Best MC, but yeah, mainly.
But so now you take on the nights of the awards, you take bookings in other cities.
Yeah, of course. I'm never going to pick it up.
Yeah.
Everyone else is. Yeah, I clean up. I clean up on awards nights. You got to laugh about it. So yes, I've lost many awards. The next one to lose, and this has only been brought about because of Scott's recent award that he's been given by the Crown.
That's what I was going to say.
New Zealand,
Commonwealthy thing that
New Zealand of merit or something, some sort of merit. You got a badge,
yeah.
So that's the only other award that I can kind of now aspire to lose. I think, and I'm going to set my sights to lose the services to comedy, Queen's Medal.
Maybe
you've got to have something to work towards.
Like have one of those, or maybe those like musicians get in the New Zealand Music Awards. Maybe after a point they'll just go, look, we better give them the Lifetime Achievement Award or whatever it is.
And the worst part about that,
Skin in the Game award.
Skin in the Game. Yeah.
So with that, man, I was thinking
it's almost like 20 years of just flatly refusing to ignore all of the evidence that this is not for me.
Well, I was quickly trying to work this out before, and so you're a bit younger than me. You must be late 30s now.
Yeah, coming up to 37.
37. So. I was gonna say, you must have done something else beforehand. But having said that, that does work out at about 1920. So where did it all start, bro? Were you like school, uni?
Yeah,
found comedy or
school? My memories of school are just doing the school shows.
Auckland?
In Auckland. I went to Milford Primary, a little stint at Willow Park, but mainly Milford Primary, and then like Takapuna Normal Intermediate, and then Westlake.
Yeah. And
then I got kicked out of Westlake, and then I went to Rangi.
What did you get kicked out for?
I got kicked out for singing sexually explicit lyrics in the national final of the Smoke Free Rock Quest.
Really?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
That's weird.
The other guys were 7th form, so they kind of like avoided most of the punishment, but I got the option presented to me of you can leave or we'll make you leave.
So you got kicked out for censorship of music, or were you intentionally like pushing it?
I was really like we were pushing it.
Okay.
Yeah, I was a real little shit.
Okay. That's it. Okay, so it sounds like there was a backstory before that night.
Yeah.
Anyway, so lots of performance.
So lots of performance, like dancing, singing, did all the school shows, started getting lead roles in school shows, loved drama, just that was always the time when I felt like, you know, at home or at ease or making music. And it was always just normal to get up, and I did like speech championships and competitions and stuff like that, and I always placed really well or won those and got the drama prizes and stuff at school. So I was just like, there was never a question that I would do some form of something.
Performance-wise.
Yeah, I thought I was going to...
Involving words.
I thought I was going to be a musician. Like,
Yeah.
I really wanted to be a musician, and I love music, and I still make a lot of music.
Yeah.
But then my friends and I got together, Brett O'Gorman and Mick Andrews, who saw me at the high school show one year, and they'd just left Rangitoto, and they wanted me to do a play with them, which was Comedy of Errors. We did that. 3 of us got on fantastically. We all loved Python, so on and so forth. Started a sketch group, rang up the Classic, I think 2-3 weeks later.
How old are you, like 17, 18 or something?
Yeah, I'm like 17, 18 at that point. 18, I think, just 18. And we go down and we do our first open mic spot at the Classic, and we have a fucking blast. And then, like, I'm pretty sure it's like four gigs later, we got our first paid gig.
At the Classic?
At the Classic.
Well done.
And then we were like, that was everything then.
Yeah.
We could get up and, we could do sketches about people being shot by because we've programmed a sniper sound on a keyboard. So every time we hit that note, the person gets brutally shot. We can do that in front of a crowd.
So it was sketch in the purest tradition of sketch.
Yeah, man, and it was so fun too, because we just loved making each other laugh, and those two men are two of the most absurd men I've ever had the pleasure of working with.
Are they still...
Brett O'Gorman especially is just like, there's something about him as a human which is just magnificent.
Have they followed a similar trajectory, or is one of them like selling insurance now or something?
No, they're both still, I think they're still working on scripts, and they've had a couple of short films do the festival circuit and stuff like that. I think because they definitely wanted to gravitate more towards the I guess the more serious or the more artistic aspect of film and TV.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they've had a solid working relationship ever since we stopped doing Gary.
Oh, so they've stayed as like a sort of a writing duo.
Yeah, they kind of did, and they kind of were before I got there too. They used to, because they lived around the corner from each other, and they were very close mates and did all the stuff at school together. And so I was always kind of like the third Gary.
So for you just kept on with it after the
I just loved it, man.
Trio.
I just caught the bug.
Yeah.
And the thing I really wanted to do was I really wanted to learn how to be one of those guys that can stand super still on a stage and just talk for an hour and just command a crowd. Because that was the hardest thing I could imagine doing, was standing still and not moving.
And how's that going for you?
Well, it's 20 years, and I'm only just starting to get to grips with that.
Yeah.
I'm still too big and wild. I still want to pull it back and see how far back it can go before it falls over.
So what do you mean? Are you sort of fighting against your own inclination as to how you operate as a human?
No. I think how I operate as a human is like, how I operate on stage is pretty close to how I operate as a human these days. But I'm just wondering if I can make it closer.
Constantly trying to rein it in. It does sound familiar to me, actually. It's my life's work, really.
It's very much a life's work.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that I'm enjoying comedy again, because I'm really enjoying reinvesting in picking apart my own psychology.
What do you mean
again.
enjoying comedy again? You've done it all this time. Was there a bit of a... I mean, I know what you mean. I've had that with creative endeavours. You're just kind of phoning it in for a while.
Well, not necessarily phoning it in so much as you are just going,
where am I at with this?
Well, what the fuck do I do next? You know, like I've tried all of these different hats on, and I've found a good living. I make a good living here in New Zealand. I'm super lucky. I'm incredibly fortunate to make any kind of money whatsoever doing what I want to do. But I'm just at that point of like, there's more that I want. I want to do more, and I just wasn't satisfied with my own work. I was a bit sort of stilted in my own work, and I needed a project to sink my teeth into, and I just fell out of love with stand-up for a little bit.
Hang on, where are we here? Recently? Or
Yeah, this is like last year.
I think the special sounds like, I mean, that's, as I say to you, you're in those inner halls more than I am, but you'd know, but I don't think anyone's done anything like that. So how's the comedy changed over the years, man? I mean, like, I probably, I would have thought that I had the world sewn up at 18 or 19, but if I looked back at what I was talking about on stage, not that I was, but if I was, how's it changed?
How's it changed?
Now that you're a man.
After 20 years of continually failing in front of people, the comedy's gotten to the point where it's like, it works now.
Yeah.
But
it must have worked back then.
No. I don't think that I was a good performer in any way, shape, or form until about 14 years into it.
Wow.
So, like, in the last couple of years, I think I'm starting to get the hang of it.
Because that was the other thing I was going to ask you about my second-hand insight from podcasts is I've heard more than one stand-up say that on those shows that, like, they all put it at different amounts, but it's normally 10 years plus.
Yeah.
So that's really a thing, right?
It's the longest. I mean, buddies of mine and I joke about it, but it is the longest apprenticeship in the arts.
Yeah.
And there's no set road to it, too, because, especially depending on what type of thing you're trying to go for in terms of, like, what's the thing that you love the most.
Yeah.
Like, are you wanting to be like a one-linesman or, like, you got to find your style, and then you got to find what your genuine voice is within that style.
And then you grow up along through all of that.
And then you grow up along, yeah, totally.
And then you hone all the basic stuff like timing.
Yeah,
and,
yeah. And the whole process is, it's been me effectively growing up as a human, telling people how I feel about it, and then engaging their reaction. That's what I've done for like the last 20 years.
But a lot of comedians are of that style, but not all of them are. Eh?
No, not all of them.
Someone like Seinfeld doesn't really have much insight into that. So I'm many different styles. I've noticed that when I was watching.
The more I watch Seinfeld, the more I think he's incredibly perceptive and he's super smart.
Incredibly perceptive and super smart, but not like delving into stuff like his father's death, like you have in the last few years.
It's not his jam.
It's not his jam. Yeah. And I'm not critiquing it. I was just talking. You were talking about different styles and ways, like that very honest style that you seem to be doing. And some of the stuff I watched just before. That's right. I'd imagine it's to begin with. It's kind of terrifying in a way. Yeah. Let alone mastering it as a style of performance.
Because I didn't start doing that sort of stuff until I went through the whole thing with Dad passing away, and then coming home last minute, and then the funeral, and then the emotional fallout from that. The only reason I did it was because I was like, I just actually can't talk about anything else.
Yeah,
anything else just seems like what I was just so. I think what I was so painfully aware suddenly of my own mortality.
Yeah.
I had this thing of going, I can't talk about bullshit anymore.
Yeah,
and I was instantly disgusted with everything I'd done in my career till that point. I was just like, I've just got to change something.
Yeah, but that transition is it's totally fascinating, and but at the same time, I don't think you should be so hard on yourself from before that.
I'm very hard on my
no. Because I was going to say stuff
hard
like obviously the bit that a lot of people reference with you is the box bit, which to me, by the way, was very Carlin-esque with its timing and use of words and rhythm.
That's a compliment I don't feel it deserves.
Right, so I'm assuming that's pre your father passing away. So that's certainly not a throwaway bit. It's very clever. It's very crafted. So it's not like you're kind of going up and sort of doing fart jokes.
No, I mean, there's there's always.
And you've just said in the same breath that Seinfeld is, you respect that he doesn't go near that stuff.
Yeah,
so.
it's just I guess what it is I enjoy the comedy and the truth aspect of life.
Yeah,
I've the last couple of years in particular, I've become more and more tickled by philosophy and just the ridiculousness of everything that's happening around me.
Yeah,
and I'm really enjoying.
You're in a good era to do that.
Yeah, I'm in a great era to do it, and I'm really enjoying picking my own psychology apart, even though it can be detrimental to my mental health often.
Yeah.
Which is something I've really sort of started to come to terms with in the last 6 months or so. I've just started taking medication and sort of getting a better level underneath me to be able to kind of continue doing what I want to do.
Depression or anxiety?
Yeah, depression and anxiety. Yeah.
Oh, good. The full package.
The full package. Yeah. But I'm so fascinated by what I'm finding in comedy clubs, and I'm fascinated again by human stories, and I'm just really excited again. And so I fell out of love with it last year, but the more I throw myself into what I'm doing, like having just done this special and like watching myself in an edit studio for 3 days talk about my life's ups and downs.
Yeah.
It was fucking intense.
I'm sure. I don't even like listening back to these to see if there's anything I need to take out.
It was intense. And then to watch the finished product and go, I don't know if I'm okay putting that out. What are people going to say? You know, like, it's, yeah.
So why so long to decide to take medication and so on? Is this
I just wasn't...
you weren't coping?
I just really wasn't coping, no.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I really had to hit rock bottom to really understand the magnitude of the problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you do that before or after I met you at the pinball competition?
That was I was in the process of trying to figure it out around then.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was, when was that?
Oh, it can't have been that long ago. Wouldn't be less than a year, wouldn't it?
It was the beginning of the year.
Yeah,
yeah.
The winner just had his trip to the States and so on. That was a fun night, thank you.
It was a fun night. I really enjoyed it. That was the first time I had ever been an announcer at an event like that.
Oh, really? I would have thought MC work would be part of
MC work, you get a little bit,
you know,
first time ever doing, like, calling a pinball competition.
Yeah.
That was rad.
Probably the first, again, speaking of firsts in New Zealand.
It was rad. It was so much fun.
It was. They did well.
So, yeah, around that time, I was just sort of like, I was going through a pretty heavy personal time, and my mental health was just really sliding out from underneath me, and I just... Yeah, it just got to that point where it was very clear and evident that I was having a problem, and I just wasn't able to get myself out of it. So I went through the through the rings rather to address it.
You to talk too much about it, but you manage. I mean, people do that to differing degrees. I was just listening to something with John from Shehad the other day. Did you see the film about those guys?
No, I've not. No, I really want to watch
doco.
it.
Well, anyway, there's a bit in it that I never knew, because I kind of know those guys from around Wellington. That's right where I come from. Grew up around there, and I knew they sort of struggled around the time of going to the States and stuff. But I didn't know that John had such a breakdown that he ended up bedridden at his parents' place in Wellington. Had to come back from Melbourne and so on. So did you manage to keep working and stuff, or did you just sort of...
I did. I did as much as I could. I kind of tried to keep working. There were a couple of nights where I on purpose, I think...
It's not the sort of job. It's not the sort of job where you want to they've got to go out and even feign that you're
and that's just not me anymore.
Yeah.
Like I can't feign. It's just so it smacks of fake, and I just don't want to be.
Yeah.
I'm on this ridiculous existential quest for authenticity.
Yeah.
So I just can't go out and be hey when I'm not feeling.
Yeah.
But I still want to be funny. So I had a couple of nights where I was trying out material that was pretty close to the bone, but I just needed to try those ideas, I think, on stage. It's really, I mean, the psychology behind me and some of the stuff that I do is weird and interesting, I think.
I think everything you're describing to me, you're in the right pocket of people, man. It's like not you're going to rock up to the rest of your stand-up,
yeah, like because the Classic is this amazing place, right?
Yeah.
Where I feel so relaxed, I feel so at home.
Yeah.
I know the smell of that place
Yeah.
instinctually. I know the feel of it. I know the weight of the microphone. I know everything. I just know, and so. When I was going through my shitty time, I definitely was like, I just want to try out these ideas and just see if there's any...
Well, that's what I mean.
You're
You're sort of with a whole bunch of other completely messed up but totally together people. You know, that's the stand-up.
Yeah, it's
the
great.
stand-up career.
It's great.
Stand-up.
Such a motley collection of human beings.
Yeah,
it's fantastic.
That quest for sort of what the fuck is going on and how do I process it? And, I'm prepared to stand on stage and...
Man, I just my favourite thing about comedians is how they just question. They just question all the time.
Well, I think that, outside of dealing with say, let's say personal issues on stage or just trying to make sense of yourself in the world, there's even, the other side of it, just with what's going on with politics and so on. Like, when you think about it, I can't think of any other role in society at the moment that is more of a true example of free speech. Where else can you go on stage?
I mean, I don't know if Yeah, I mean, I've got a...
Musicians aren't doing it at the moment for some reason. I thought there'd be all this anti-Trump music.
I've got a real special place in my heart for comedy and the art form, and because I think it's an art form. And I really love the varying ways in which people can do it. I don't know if I would give it quite that lofty sort of place in society, but I think it's really important.
Yeah.
I think it's really important that people are able to joke about things that aren't right. And the human experience is ridiculous, and we need people to point out how ridiculous it is.
When I had Brendan on, he was sort of seemed quite worried about...
God, anyone listening to this will be like, is this guy... What do you mean? No wonder he hasn't won any fucking awards. He's not fucking funny at all. Listen to him. He's just this depressed egomaniac.
And then there's the guest. So where were we? Oh, yeah.
I love the fact that you have a pinball machine in your workspace / living space.
Yeah, that's only the last month or two. It took a lot of...
There's a pinball machine just sitting right next to the bed.
A 2-year-old Ghostbusters.
It's fantastic.
The records are in the hallway now.
That's great.
That's what you sideways walk down, because they're there and there.
I like it.
I've completely forgotten what I was going to ask next. Oh, that's right. On that sort of like existential storytelling comedian tip, I always like hearing from comedians themselves, and admittedly it's a bad journo question, but let's go. Like, who do you like on that tip at the moment? Who do you like listening to who kind of just is trying to unpack it all? Well, with what I saw with you, sort of quite long storytelling.
Yeah. So in terms of comedy,
comedy.
Yeah,
who
right. So I mean, like, I am such a fanboy of Daniel Kitson.
Yeah.
Possibly to my own detriment, but I just think that the way he slings a story together and the way that he uses words is just really exciting and really fascinating, and I love him. He was the first person I'd seen do a 1 hour and a half long narrative, and it was the first time I'd seen that. I was like, oh fuck,
one story an hour and a half.
One story for an hour and a half, and he just held the crowd, and I was like, oh my god, I want to do that.
So is there any show aside from that? Just one story?
It's just one story, and it's just phenomenal storytelling.
Move over Billy Connolly.
At its most simplest form. It's just storytelling, and it was fucking beautiful, and it was funny, and it had humanity, and it had pathos, and you had sympathy for the characters. It had every...
But it was one bit.
But it was one dude.
And one bit over that time.
One bit.
Crazy.
It blew my mind.
Where did you see him?
That was at the Herald Theatre in Auckland.
So he's played here.
He's played here, yeah. It just blew my mind. I was just like, I never thought I could do that, but I've just seen what someone, and I don't pretend to do it anywhere near to the level of talent or dexterity that he has as a wordsmith and comic by any means. But I was just like, I want to have a go at what he's kind of doing, because that looks like a challenge.
You mentioned wordsmith. I did notice that with your bits. That's a consideration, eh? Like, you write them... How do you write? Some people are like bullet point ideas. Some of yours feel like they have been crafted on paper before they're delivered.
Some of them are, and then it's a case of going through and...
Actually, now the fact you're a musician makes sense in that as well, because I was going to say rhythmical before.
Really?
Yeah.
I guess so. Yeah, actually, do you know what? I'd never even considered it from that point of view. I like rhythm and melody, and I love...
Well, what's a comic without timing?
What's a comic without timing? An open micer. Broke.
Delusional.
Yeah. When I write, sometimes I'll write out a big thing, but like the last couple of shows I've done, I paste. Like, I just pace up and down my house, and I just think. And I just kind of start slinging a story together that way. I'm using slinging a story a lot together at the moment, because I'm trying to understand what my process is for putting something together. And it's just kind of like, I'm just mentally take an idea and I'm just going to throw bits at it and let it percolate for a wee while. And then by the time it gets to stage, it's already gone through 1 or 2 stand-up filters in my head.
Do you see something like funny at the supermarket and like put a word in your phone and then come?
Yeah.
I'm fascinated by this process.
Yeah, sometimes absolutely you see a thing and you go, well, that story is a funny story to tell.
Yeah,
but I'm also interested in what's my reaction to that story, because that to me is where the humour is.
But then do you sit down with those? Because, like, look, the creative process, it's so different for so many different people. Do you then take all those bits of papers and notes on your phone and sit down for 3 hours on a Thursday morning and try and flesh them out?
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
I love writing.
Yeah.
I really enjoy. I love isolation.
Yeah.
I mean, I like to live in just about near isolation for most of my week, because I just like spending time in my head, and I like putting words down on my. I'm writing a lot by hand, and I'm also typing a lot, and just pacing and thinking and playing guitar to let an idea kind of noodle over. So I'm totally happy with a whole scrap of paper and then sitting down and going, I'm going to make a story out of this. And then I make the story out of it, and if it's a big long one, then I'll kind of just learn by the time I've put the story together, I've already learnt it, and I've already probably edited it a couple of times.
Oh, so you've already... So you've already committed it to be able to be spoken. That's great. That's a great skill to possess.
Yeah, I'm very lucky in that regard.
Yeah. That's the bit I've wondered about if I were to ever do something like stand-up, is the bit going between... Sorry to cut you off. The bit going between I've written out this great idea and actually committing it to performance. But sorry, I'm more meaning like remembering half an hour of those or 40 minutes of those.
Yeah. It's always fun. Like, my favourite moments in comedy are when you have half an idea.
Yeah.
And you go on stage and you just say that idea.
Yeah.
To see how it lands with the crowd.
Yeah.
And then off the back of that, just kicking the ball around with them to see if there's anything more with the idea. And then so something like a particularly a routine that's really reliant on wordplay and rhythm and all the rest of it, I'd imagine would be committed to memory, like learning lines for a play. Yeah.
But then, as you say, you'd have stuff where you just throw the basic gag out there and a few bits you kind of glued onto it, and then I'd imagine that one would develop as you keep doing bits,
and like it's I find the rhythmic parts or element of my stand-up interesting because those parts become muscle memory. There's a muscle memory that happens, and so what that gives me is when I switch into those parts, I'm still present, but it also gives me a chance to think about where to next. Yeah. So when I get those muscle memory parts, I'm still very much like part of it, but I'm able to just let it roll out. It just comes out.
Yeah.
And then I can think about, okay, well, we're enjoying this moment, so why don't we do this next joke because that'll flow on well, or let's take it somewhere else, or let's talk to the crowd, or...
Sounds like something like teaching for me, which I do now, is like that thinking ahead, but in the moment, and very tiring.
Yeah, very tiring. Yeah. After an hour and a half, man, you are wiped out.
Yeah,
that's right. Really hard, especially if you have to do a half time, because then you've got to build the energy back up. Actually, no, it's harder to do it straight through. An hour and a half straight through is really hard, because you get a couple of slump moments.
Where do you do an hour and a half in New Zealand these days?
Places like I've done the Hawke's Bay Arts Festival, Wanaka Festival of Colour, did Nelson Arts Festival too. So those kind of places. So I took 3 shows, I crammed them into an hour and a half. So I took all the good bits and just crammed it into an hour and a half, and it's an hour and a half long story from start to finish. Nice.
Last bit on the craft. What I was thinking of it is, again, this is secondhand podcast knowledge, but I've heard a lot of people talking about the hour-long show, however long it is, and then there seems to be a tradition or a current thing in the last few years overseas, the States pretty much, of you do an hour, you do it for a year, you do your special, and then you set fire to that hour, and then you do. And the couple of comedians I've talked to so far, locals, have said it doesn't work like that. So, what's your kind of rule in your head around new material and old material? Would you just do something until it's like, I'm done with that, or
like I know that there are definitely some jokes that I've told so much and have relied on so much to finish off shows, and I know that they're just a good spot in the set, but I'm probably not telling those jokes with as much conviction as I used to, and so I should retire those jokes for my own sanity.
That's what I was watching the stuff of you online and that. I was like, they all need to stop talking about his beard shortly. There's a period you went through.
Yeah. So no more beard talk anymore. Don't talk about the beard anymore.
I'm losing my hair.
But the heavy existential stuff, though, I'm only just getting started on that. Yeah, I'm loving that. I really love taking a really messed up notion, possibilities of our reality,
Yeah.
Right, and then I love being able to get that 15 minutes of that shit to a Friday night 8 p.m. crowd.
So what are you reading?
Love that
But
shit.
the way you say that, are you reading like the great philosophers, and how are you getting there?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. I'm going through. I'm just reading whatever I can get my hands on, and because I'm just so fascinated by it, because the outcomes of everyone's perception of uniquely different, and I find that intrinsically fucking hilarious.
So what were you talking about when you first went out solo on stage as a stand-up?
I can't even remember. I really can't.
Masturbating?
Yeah, probably. There's probably a
teens,
lot of that
girls.
stuff. Yeah, girls, drunken stories of. Basically, I was like every other young, white, middle-class, obnoxious comedian, telling stories about my own personal victories like a fucking asshole.
Who else is your generation, late 30s, who's still at it?
Who's still at it?
Yeah, in New Zealand.
Hurley?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Is he from Wellington? No, he's Aucklander.
He's Wellington. How older?
Yeah.
Henwood?
Di Henwood? Yes, definitely Wellingtonian.
Justine Smith?
Actually, Di's my age. Yep. Had Justine on, had Di on.
Great.
Yeah.
I love those humans so much.
So you went to London. I know you came back either 13 or 14. That's right, 2013, 14.
There, yeah.
So how long had you been over there?
I went over there for like June, July, August. I did Edinburgh Fringe.
Of what, 13 or 14? So you weren't there for a
13.
few years? You were just there
Just
a year
there for
or two?
I was there for about 6 or so months, just over that. And then Dad got diagnosed with cancer, and then I had to come home and deal with that.
Yeah.
And then I went back for another couple of months after that. So I think all up about 9 months or so.
How do you get work when you're from New Zealand, going somewhere in that sort of huge a market?
Yeah, so it used to be that you could go over there and New Zealanders could just, like say hi to the one person that they'd met who'd come over from the UK for the New Zealand Comedy Festival,
Yep.
and they'd help you get gigs, and if you gigged well, then you could just kind of get on the circuit, and that was fine. But when I got there, it was a little bit, just a bit tougher. Gigs were starting to dry out, and clubs were kind of closing down a little bit. So I just ended up working a lot. Jeff Whiting, who runs Mirth Control, was very generous to me and helped me out with a lot of shows. Through them, I got to do places like Malta and Romania. And
What was the? I mean, it sounds like
it's crazy, man.
the things the universe throws at you. Your dad passing away. I read about how as fucked as that was, it sort of made you come back and reappraise New Zealand and realise you wanted to be here. But what was the plan if you were to stay over there? Were you going to try? I mean,
I was just going to keep going for stand-up.
Try and just see where you ended up in the world.
My goal in this job has been it's changed dramatically. Like I used to make it want it huge. Of course you want to be a big star, blah blah blah.
Everyone and everything.
I just want to be employed and comfortable.
Yeah.
That's all I'm after.
Yeah.
I'm really happy with my level. And so London was the first time I was going to I'm just going to give this a proper swing at something.
Yeah.
It didn't work out because of life situations.
Yeah.
And I also did Melbourne for a couple of years with the same thing. I was just working odd jobs, but just goofing around on stages, trying weird characters.
Oh, you lived there for a couple of years.
Yeah. So I took a couple of swings at it. But then when I came back from London, I was just a better comic after a year of gigging around. And even though I was going through some hard stuff, I was finding a lot of funny in it. And it was working really well. And then I just gigged fucking hard back here. And it was weird because I came back to Auckland and all of a sudden there were enough gigs for me to do 2, sometimes 3 gigs on a Friday night.
So before you left for overseas, so it was London first and then Melbourne.
No, Melbourne first. This is way back 2004, 2005.
Okay, so it's since you've been back. I always ask guests about the make a living side of it because I think it's important for people here, man.
Yeah.
I think it's important intel. So because you mentioned a lot longer ago, but I let it go because we went somewhere else.
Sure.
So how long has it been since you can just do, Jamie Bowen, comedian, performer, and writer as a career and pay the bills and stuff?
I think for me, it has been full time since 2008.
That's pretty good going, man. So
Yeah.
including when you're overseas.
Just after. So when I got back from Melbourne, I was working in a bar for 6 months when I got back from Melbourne,
Yeah.
and working on comedy. But then things started getting busier. Then I got a TV series, and so the cash from that floated me for a while. And then I
Nice.
got ads, and then I got, I wasn't doing great by any means. I think I've only just started earning money in the last 2 years.
Yeah. It's amazing, eh?
Yeah. Yeah.
Was your dad a funny guy?
Dad was awesome, yeah.
So that's where you got the funny bone from.
Yeah, and from Mum too. Mum's really goofy and really fun, and
Yeah.
my sister's really goofy, and we had like really goofy grandparents who were, like it was always like lots of playtime. It was cool.
So everyone's
Lots
got
of
that sense
imagination.
humour.
Yeah, everyone's got a sense of humour, and everyone like lots of like good sense of humour. Shit, my family can laugh. Oh my god, it's so funny sometimes.
And you talked about your granddad as well.
Man, he was a stellar human being. Yeah, what a champion. Fascinating guy. Left school like super early.
Yeah.
Learned how to taught himself how to build houses. Taught himself, all manner of technical things. Just completely figured it out by himself. He was a genius on whiz on computers and stuff like that. Just super rad dude, and so funny, cripplingly funny.
But so none of them took it to stage. It was just a family trait.
It's just a family trait, yeah. I my sister did a lot of stage stuff, and she works in the industry now, but more on the tech side at the moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was like the only one in the family that was really gunning for showbiz. I just never thought I just didn't know there was never going to be anything else. It was always just going to be this.
I hear that a lot with stand-ups or just a number of creative endeavours. Right? It's like. Yeah, it's that bloody minded.
I just it's just what I'm supposed to do. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do.
Has there been points where you've just gone, "Fuck, this is too hard"?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
I'm going to, and then you go,
Yeah.
"Hang on, I'm going to what?"
You betcha. Absolutely.
And what were you going to? What were you going to do when you weren't going to do it?
I contemplated and
Marine biologist?
No.
I just think one of those childhood.
Do you know what I
occupations.
contemplated?
What?
I contemplated advertising.
Why not, man? You got the brain for it, copywriter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then I've got to think it through. I am not built to go to one location every day for a year and churn out stuff. I just cannot do it as a human.
A year? Be 20 years.
Be
30 years.
Okay, so it's not for me.
Yeah.
I'm a lifer, I think, now.
Yeah.
Like coming up to 20 years, I reckon I'm a lifer.
It'd be interesting to see, as I say, because stand-up is...
If I can keep making a living out of it, if I keep enjoy travelling, if I keep meeting the awesome people that I get to meet by doing this, if I keep racking up air points,
Yep.
great, man. I'm just going to keep doing it. It's really fun. I really like this.
It's tangentially made me think about it, because I was thinking about the longevity of a stand-up or comedy career in New Zealand, and like I talked about before, the age of stand-up, full stop, is only a certain amount of decades in New Zealand. Be interesting to see what stand-up comedy looks like when the guys like, how old's Brendan? Must be late 40s.
Yeah, I'd say so.
He's our test case.
Yeah.
What Lovegrove's doing when he's 65.
Well, yeah, I think that's been something I think that I was really struggling with last year. Is like, what do I look like from a comedy point of view in 40 years' time?
You know what's happening, bro?
What do I want to be doing?
I never thought this would happen, but it's happening to you a little early, perhaps. They say you start to ask all these questions at about 40.
Right.
And I'm just about to hit 42,
Yeah,
and
right.
I've had similar in the last 6 months, like that. Is it a midlife? I suppose
No,
it is a midlife crisis.
no, I think
it's more like an existential.
Do you know what I think it is? I
What?
think it's boys growing up into men.
Dude, and then do you have stuff like you go like on a bad day? You're like, what the fuck have I done with the last 20 years?
Yeah,
like,
of course.
Yeah,
Of course.
You go-
But then I also have this thing where, like, my last 2 months has been amazing.
I've just had an epiphany. Yeah,
I've just gone over to, like, I've reached a point in my life at the age of coming up to 37 where
Yeah.
I've done something for nearly 20 years.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, so for longer, I've done comedy for longer than half my life.
That's amazing.
That's
Yeah, yeah.
insane. And I fell out of love with it because it's hard and it's,
Yeah.
and I didn't know whether or not I had enough energy to throw it back into it. But I look at that 20 years now and I'm like, oh man, that's so cool. I want to do another 20 like that.
Good.
It's just so much fun.
Yeah,
But I've also got to look after myself a little bit better.
yeah.
And I'd like to make some money at some point.
And also, I think when you look after yourself a bit better, you have less of those existential crisis days.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, my self-criticism is simultaneously a good thing and a bad thing to have.
Well, speaking of the yin and yang and things, yeah, it's like the you talked about that flexibility and that life that's not structured around the 9 to 5 and stuff.
Yeah.
I've had that more of my life than I haven't with the different things I've done, and it is brilliant, like you say, and it does suit me. But then also I was thinking, if you've got a job where I don't know how many hours you spend on stage on average a week, it's actually a lot of time outside that your mental health, your thought patterns can go two ways.
Oh, mate,
do you know what I mean? Because
totally,
you're not tied up with 40 hours of a task.
No. So
yeah.
and that's something that my therapist and I talk about at great length.
Yeah.
Is that I need to occupy my brain a little bit more than just sitting there thinking existential thoughts.
You got to do something dull, like chip away at the tax return every.
Oh, don't say tax return to me. I was meant to get that in this morning.
I got my ACC thing as a. You must have this as a performer.
Return. No, let's not finish on tax return.
I want to know. We're not finished. I want to know why I pay my ACC levy for the year following when I don't know how much I'm going to have earned. I don't understand that.
Yeah.
So what can happen to you on a stage? A lot
of stuff. A lot of stuff. I've had
microphone in the eye.
No, like when we were in Gary, a light gate fell off a light and smacked one of the members like clean in the head.
Right.
And like split his head.
Is that,
so that shit
years ago at Gary?
Yeah, that shit can happen.
We've been playing ACC back then. Do you want to talk about something else?
Yeah.
Well, we sort of were kind of on mental health a little bit. Great topic. I'm really glad that people in public are talking about this more in general. I think podcasts have had a lot to do with it. I've noticed that in music now. I was talking about Shihad twice in the episode, but Tom Larkin, the drummer, has been fronting this thing on the mental health, mental health issues in the music industry. Anyway, your poster boy in the comedy industry, for my money, is Mike King. For the Nutters Club and all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Mike's done amazing work.
And I saw you did a stage show with him. Is that right? So it was a different fellow comedian each day talking with Mike. Or was it a comedy show? What was it?
It was a comedy show. It was it wasn't really a comedy show. Let's say it was a comedy show. So, I mean, I obviously have a very broad definition of what comedy is. If people laugh, then it's comedy. Yeah. But it was Mike King and myself and who else did it? Was it Corey Gonzalez?
There was a huge list. Don't worry about that. There was about 8 or 9 names,
and it was a really it was talking about mental health. All of us talking about our issues with mental health, or our experience with mental health. It just
did not happen even a few years ago, man.
And it was one of the most confronting, beautiful experiences of my entire career.
Yeah.
And I got pretty open. I kind of talked about my suicide attempt and. Because I'm just trying to figure out the language around that. And that was such an amazing platform to just kind of go out and just sort of talk about it and see how it sits with the crowd and to really give it some weight also for myself, so to make it real, because I have to make it real. Because otherwise, you don't want to just sort of brush something like that off and go, I'm fine. I'm all good off the back of that.
But that's what generations of people have done. That's why I don't know if there's this great, I don't know, this is obscure because there's so much media around. There's a show called F is for Family on Netflix.
Oh, yeah, that's
and it's
Bill Burr, isn't it?
Bill Burr's show.
Yeah, I haven't watched any of that yet.
Well, there's this dad, and he is like just... he's just a pent-up ball of 1970s father rage. Yeah. And I've heard Bill Burr talking about the fact that it was, that was the male back then. You had all of this shit on your plate.
Yeah, so I think
our age, probably you've got kids, no?
No.
Right, so by now us two might have 3 kids, a mortgage, a job we hate. And you can't talk to your male friends about anything going on in your head.
Yeah.
So it sort of excuses men like that from that era.
Yeah. But that's no longer okay. Like we can't be that anymore.
No,
because it's so bad. And
totally.
So
you've got to watch that show, man. You'll watch a bunch in a row. It's so good.
So the mental health thing, like I'm just figuring out how to talk about it. And I don't quite have the language right, or I don't have the maybe I still don't have enough time between my episode.
You're just talking about it. That's
I have been I'm now a massive advocate for medication and for therapy if you genuinely feel like you can't get yourself out of it. Because I was just in an all sense of panic, all the time.
Yeah.
for months.
But you're not now.
I'm not now.
That's good, man.
It's fucking great.
I wouldn't
dude.
have even, it's amazing the front we can put on, because that night I met you at that comp, I was like, what a really great guy. I really liked your emceeing. I liked chatting to you afterwards.
I was walking through a personal hell.
Yeah, no, that's bro. That's really honest of you. That comes back to what I was saying. It's amazing. We do need to talk more about it, and it's amazing the fronts we can put on.
It's also like there's also a thing that's starting to happen within our industry, and Richard Carrington, who's a very dear friend of mine, and also my manager too, and business genius, has been working with a counselling service, and it's a koha donation. So that
for
artists,
artists,
so that actors or comedians can go and talk about their mental health, because it's the mental health of an actor or an artist or a writer or musician or something like that is a really interesting beast.
Or your hours are upside down. All sorts of things.
I just think so many of us also spend so much time analysing the life around us.
Yeah.
We forget to engage with the life around us, and so your sense of isolation and detachment can be pretty real.
Jamie and I were just talking about being more open as men, and then both crossed our arms. And
I know. Just relax, guys. Just relax.
It's actually these seats. It's these seats. It's nothing to do with our.
No, you know what
personal.
You know what it was? It was because it was a serious moment, and both of us acknowledged it with our body language by leaning forward. We locked eyes as we both kind of went into we feel exposed, but we're safe. We hug ourselves.
Speaking of eyes, are your eyes enhanced on your website?
My Baby Blues.
Yeah.
No comment. Probably, yeah.
There's
I keep the girl that I do photography with, who does rather all of my headshots and stuff.
To take pictures.
Kate Little, rad person, and she. I've had to over the years start asking her to stop airbrushing me. Like, it's time that I'm aging. I've got spots on my face. They need to stay on there now.
Well, the whole front page of your website is no text and just your face.
Yeah, no, they've definitely been doctored.
Actually, and while we're here and you're in such good spirits, there's a hilarious typo, and it's in the bit where you say you're a writer.
Well, it shows you how long since I've looked at the website then. Don't do drugs, kids. I said I'm a writer. I didn't say I'm a proofreader. I pay someone else for that shit, and clearly they have not done their job.
Right, they've not done their job. And another broad general topic of stand-up that interests me in our sort of
Am I allowed to vape in here?
Absolutely.
Oh,
in our social... Someone told me off for vaping during the podcast because they said it sounded... whatever they said.
Oh,
anyway,
through the
but you were
microphone.
fine. No, I didn't hear that at all.
No.
Didn't hear that at all.
Yeah, I'm very wary of it.
What flavour are you rocking?
I like to go for a little bit of a caramel sea salt.
Oh,
yeah,
goodness.
With just a hint of tobacco in that. There's also got some very nice pear notes, and the aftertaste is lingering dark chocolate. I'd say about.
Where do you
60%.
go for your juice? Someone who's a good salesperson, obviously. So, what milligram?
6.
6, good milligram. Good milligram.
I'm about to go down to 3.
Still committed, but
I'm about to go down to 3.
Right. Okay.
We're on the home stretch.
So what's talking about? That's right. So general topics that are sort of about our the society we live in at the moment, but also stand up very much. So, what is offensive, bro? What's offensive? Is in stand up? What is offensive?
It's what you choose
Yep.
to be offended at.
Yeah.
That's what's offensive.
Do you find that being threatened that you're offensive is not you, but the climate in general at the moment for stand-ups is... I don't know, Brendan sort of said it was getting like the states are getting over here, but I wondered whether Brendan... I wondered about that. I don't... Yeah.
Well, I mean,
I don't
my
see
experience...
I work at university. I don't see that our campuses are becoming as much of a battleground as the US, you know?
No.
Although that Brash thing was weird.
That was very weird. I didn't... I haven't read about that. So,
anyway,
my experience of doing things like orientation shows, I did an orientation show this year,
yes.
And the crowd of, because they are kids now to me, I apologise, and also I'm old, such a condescending old man. That's what I'm well on my way to becoming a cantankerous old bastard, and I think it's going to suit me very well. But that crowd of people, of younger humans, was so intrinsically different from the what I used to play 5 years ago.
5 years. I'm really interested, man. Go on. Yeah.
It's like it's a different mindset. You have to acknowledge the fact that you just can't be a dick about stuff. You know, like you can't. Like you,
I might have to get you to be a little bit more specific.
You're just like. I don't want to say things that are going to offend those people, and so I want to be careful about the things that I say.
What would you say that would offend them?
Well, there's a very good chance that at my particular age, I've got prejudices that I've grown up with that they no longer agree with, and if anyone's going to be right, it's going to be them, not me. So
you notice, this is all very vague, so you notice this from the reaction to some of your...
Yeah, like some of my bits. Then I'm like, okay, maybe that's a bit that I just don't do anymore. Maybe I should question that bit.
And you think it's only 5 years?
Yeah, man.
This fascinates me because I've been teaching for 7 or 8.
Right.
And I forget that 7 or 8 years in my time is not a lot of time. But this has started to occur to me recently that...
Culturally, 7 or 8 years.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Like,
I was thinking, that's right. So when you say the kids now, so when I was 18 and I was at uni, I got to remember that 8 years ago, to me then, was like eons ago.
Yeah.
So things do change at a much quicker rate when you're that age, right?
Yeah, but also things in general are moving at a quicker rate. Social change moves at a faster rate. There's a faster adoption of societal changes.
Yeah.
Ideas are getting picked up faster and people are speaking out about it more because we are more connected and so on and so forth. So, like, in another 5 years' time, the gap between those 18-year-olds going to university and the 18-year-olds that have just come out of university is also going to be enormous.
I've found a case study to test this here because you are being a little vague with what the content and stuff, and that's fine. But then you mentioned the age thing, and then I was thinking of comedians who I think are just supremely... smart and crafted with their ideas and deliver. Okay, point being is, would someone like Bill Burr offend them?
Oh, yeah.
Right. So maybe that is a generational thing because I see how Bill Burr really pushes that fine line.
Yeah.
Where, like, he pretends to be the everyman, but it's totally not.
But I also I can't really be objective about that because I like watching another comedian do that.
Yeah.
I love it. I don't personally want to do it, but I love watching someone do it. And it makes me giggle.
I like how he's, like doing what? Like, what would you say, what? What's it?
Well, just, riding that line of offence.
Yeah.
I find it really funny. But also, some of my stuff is in bad taste, certainly.
Yeah.
But
come on, everyone likes bad taste.
Yeah, but it's amazing, like, you just, I don't know, I think there's a responsibility from straight white males to just be a bit fucking smarter about the things that we say and think.
I love how Bill Burr plays the...
we should just shut up for a while.
Hang on, I'll just check in here. Hang on a second. We've got... we're at an hour and 3 minutes. So what? So for 17 minutes, shall I go into class tomorrow and just put the mic in the middle of the room and can I hear from you guys for 17 minutes? What I really like with Burr is... there's many things. Is that he plays that kind of schlub on stage, but he's anything but. And it's interesting... there's all sorts of stuff going in there, class and all the rest of it. Like his father's a dentist, He's certainly not from kind of like working class Boston stock. Have you seen the Philly incident?
No, I think I've seen the Philly incident.
I messaged that to you.
I think so. I don't know.
Yeah, what is offensive?
What is offensive?
I did bring that up because of the Don Brash thing, because it related to the whole thing they're saying that's happening to unis in the States, this whole snowflake thing, and it fucks me off because that kind of notion and language is coming here. But I work in one of those institutions, and I haven't seen that happening at work. I almost think there's this imaginary wider public perception, talkback radio mentality going on about what a uni is. So maybe it's happening in the States, but I don't think it's happening here,
I've never actually been to university. I left high school and then that was it. So I don't really know what university campuses were like or are like. I just know that the crowds are more reserved than they were 5 years ago.
Okay, so I can close all of that off after we delved into the psychology of it. I think they're probably just drinking less.
Yeah, they definitely are.
It certainly affects behaviour.
Yeah, it definitely does. And more power to them. They're going to get so much more shit done than our generation.
Yeah. yeah.
We're the ones that need to adapt, not them. It's their world.
So you're good mates. You're very good friends with Mr. Darby.
Yeah, he's a very good buddy of mine.
And
Very dear, wonderful human friend.
touring with him, what were those shows like? Were they of a scale
amazing.
you weren't used to?
Yeah, absolutely. So Reese and his wife Rosie have been amazingly generous to me throughout my career.
Yep.
And helped me out heaps. And they've given me this opportunity a couple of times to play, to open for Reese, where you're doing 2,000-seat theatres. One tour was like 25 dates across the UK. Then there was like a couple of Australian ones, a couple of New Zealand ones. Opened for him in LA recently too, and
Wow.
it's just amazing, dude. So they open up so many options and opportunities for me.
So you most of the time his support act when he does tours?
Yeah, I have been of late. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Because we've known each other since 1999.
Yeah.
We did a show together called Earthlings. It was Gary, Reese Darby, and Grant Lobbin. It was one of the most mental things we've ever done. It was fucking awesome.
Gary's the trio,
the stand-up trio that I was in with Mick Andrews and Brett O'Gorman. And so I've known him for ages, so we've just always been really good mates. But yeah, they've helped me out a lot in my career. Yeah.
Have you thought about, because it's, I mean, it wasn't even a reality really for me, at least growing up. But then, I mean, I actually was in the same year doing the same major as Jermaine and Taika with Brett a year or two down or whatever it was, maybe a little bit further down. Then there's Reese. Then obviously there's the Peter Jackson effect as well. Essentially, I'm saying that New Zealand, you know, irrespective of the internet being invented and so on, just the idea of making it somewhere like the States seems much more of a reality now.
Yeah.
Have you thought about trying to do anything over there, get an agent?
Yeah, I've just come back from LA.
Have you? Yeah. I think you'd be in good stead, man.
I got back
take a lot of boxes.
So yeah, I had a bit of a lucky break. And so I've just got back from LA, so I had 5 weeks over in LA.
Oh, you've already done something over there.
I'm sort of starting to sound out whether or not it's a possibility to be over there. I've been lucky enough to get a visa, so I'm like, yeah, okay, maybe I'll go.
The lucky break is the visa, or have you got an agent, or have you screen tested?
I haven't
for
got
something?
an agent. I haven't screen tested for anything, and the lucky break is like just the visa and the chance to get in.
Well done, bro.
Work, you know, I can work there now.
So you filmed. Wow. So the special's coming on out.
So the special's
You've
coming
got a
out
door
soon,
into-
I think. I don't know what we're going to do with the special. Don't know where we're going to put it out.
I hope that one day, companies like Netflix start having local content. You know, places like that. I think will open up.
Yeah.
This is down the track. So what were the 5 weeks in LA? Just sounding it out. Getting
Yeah,
a feel?
sounding it out. Trying to figure out how to navigate the stand-up scene a little bit.
Did you go to the Comedy Store?
I did. I went to the Comedy Store
Who'd
a
you
couple
see?
of times. I went to the open mics. I wanted
Yeah.
to go see the open mics. I wanted to see what their level was like.
That's my next question. What's the level like for the open mics?
Yeah, hit and miss, as you would expect.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that open mic scene there is brutal.
Well, it's
I signed up on the
a
night
city
before,
of people wanting to be stars, bro.
The night before I came back from LA,
Yeah.
you know.
Oh, you did it! You did it!
Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
The night before I came back
Yeah.
from LA, and I kind of felt like a bit of a dick for doing it.
But you would have been more developed than.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
it's really unfair. Like I signed up on Monday night.
Yeah.
Like I'm in LA on someone else's wicket. You know, like someone's paid for me to be there. And like on Monday night, I'm like, I'm going to go sign up on the open mic night with 250 other people turned up to put their names down. I was like, what? This is mad.
How do they decide?
For 40 spots.
How do they decide? Is
And
it like
so
a roulette?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
It must be.
yeah.
There was easily like 150 to 200 people there. I'm sure of it, to put their name down for 40 spots, 3 minutes a spot. And then bang on 7 o'clock, the show starts. Right? If there's a crowd or not, doesn't matter. The show starts. And so it's just comics in the room cycling through 3 minutes and, you know, like, oh, boy.
Did you draw a ticket?
Yeah, I got a spot. Yeah.
How'd that go?
It was funny. I really enjoyed it.
Did you get laughs?
I got a few laughs because I was commenting on the gig. I was just like, I'm actually a bit of a big deal back home, so this is a lot of fun. No, I wasn't that much of an arsehole.
Are there any civilians in the crowd, or just one of the?
I think by the time I got on stage, there were 3 people.
Yeah.
3 or 4, and they spread themselves out. It's fascinating. Then the rest of it's just comics.
And so you didn't see any big ticket comedy while you were there, just the open mic nights?
Just the open mic nights. I was kind of like the first couple of weeks were work, so I didn't really get a chance to get out and do anything. And then I got sick in the middle week. I got a throat infection in the middle week, so that took a week out. And then the last couple of weeks, I sort of managed to get out. I went and saw Hot Tub with Matt and Kirsten Shaw.
I don't know what that is.
It's a comedy show that they've been running for like the last 10, 13 years. So I went and watched one of their nights. A few names on there that you'd recognise.
Cool.
And stuff. So yeah, man, I love it. I'm really excited about it. I'm kind of going back to basics. I'm going to move over and see if I can.
So you are going to move over?
Yeah.
So someone flew you over. You haven't got an agent yet. You've got a visa, and you're going to move over.
I think so.
This is so mysterious and exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I just want to give the stand-up scene a try there.
Absolutely.
I want to learn how to go through that circuit and through that scene, go step by step, start from the bottom.
I also see that you could be someone that could start getting bit parts and stuff as well.
Maybe. Yeah. I'd like to give
those eyes that aren't airbrushed.
Yeah, I'd like to.
He says yeah.
I'd like to give that a go. I want to do more. Yeah, I want to do more of that stuff. I want to do more writing. I want to make some TV shows or a movie or a. I really enjoy the creating experience.
The other thing is, your jokes about feeling really old and stuff, as if you've still got the juice in you.
I'm only 37. I'm only just getting started.
Totally, absolutely.
I'm only just getting started.
There's the whole road comic thing over there. You could do
totally. And what a great way to see the world.
What a great way to see America.
Yeah, man, I get to go to pockets of the world that other people would never go to.
Yeah.
My travelling with stand-up is the greatest thing in the world.
I'm envious.
It's amazing. I'm a very lucky human.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very lucky human.
Sort of like when I did breakfast radio for a couple of years, had awkward moments. People would, not often, but more than once, someone would say, helpfully, "Oh, you do radio? Say something funny," which is like I can imagine the comedian's lot with Muppets. So I'm hesitant to ask about bits. I'm not asking you to recount it, but something that made me really curious today, because I didn't see it, is what's this girl with a sandwich? Did you do a whole show based on a story about someone eating a sandwich?
I'm starting to work on a show about a story about someone eating a sandwich.
Oh, this hasn't happened yet?
No, it's happened. I did it, it's just a bit of stand-up that I've been trying to work on that I haven't gotten right, because it's a beautiful story, but I'm trying to figure out a way to dissect a tiny moment in as many ways as possible. And it ended up being like a bit of an interview show that I did at the festival.
Yeah.
But I'm still working on the idea of it's about a little girl eating a sandwich.
So sort of like coming back to your favourite comedian, you talked about that idea of taking one idea and turning it into a long...
I'm curious of... Yeah, I guess that is very Kitson-esque, isn't it? God, I'm basically just copying him. I have no originality whatsoever as a human.
Oh, this has been an emotional roller coaster. Don't go there. don't go there again. Have another vape.
I'm creatively bankrupt.
Hey, man, everything these days is a sample, bro. Everything these days is a sample. Everything's a riff. How does that work, actually? Like, again, oh, God, a number of times on the show, my listeners will know that I have there's a bit of romanticism when we stand up. Like, I probably wish I had attempted it years ago, and
there's nothing stopping you.
Nothing stopping me. That's right. But
except yourself.
Except myself. But one of the things I've thought of when I have thought of a funny idea, and then I've gone, oh fuck, actually that's from. I mean, that's almost an occupational hazard, isn't it? Like, and the other thing with that, before I get you to respond, is like where you innocently. Here's an orange here or whatever, and you and I go into a different room and write 5 jokes about oranges or whatever. There's also the fact that the human experience, there is going to be similarities. So how do you negotiate that, man? Like, not being seen as someone who's biting other people's material, doing original stuff.
So you just talk about you.
Just talk about you. Yeah.
You've got to be authentic. Like, if you want to not copy anyone. Right, comedically, your styles will always be similar to someone. Right, there's a few variations on how this can be performed.
Yeah,
but if but But yeah, like just being the most authentic version of yourself you can means that you're not going to be copying anyone's material. Yeah, you might end up doing jokes that are similar to what other people have done, but that's just human parallel development. And if it gets too much where if someone's more famous than you and you've got a bit that kind of works with that, I mean, just, who gives a shit? Let them have the fame, let them have the bit, and then just...
But do you have stuff like where if you're in a really furious creative period sort of writing and getting ideas together, you don't watch other people's
I don't
things?
watch a lot of stand-up at all.
For that reason?
Yeah, for that reason. And also just like... I've been making this joke on stage over the last couple of months, and the crowds really don't react to it very well. So I don't think I've quite got it right yet. But stand-up's just not for me.
Is that the joke?
Yeah. It's just like, I really love doing it, but it's just not my kind of thing to watch. I just really don't like engaging.
So you're kind of like calling the audience out for having a scene.
A little bit. I'm working on this character pitch at the moment of like, how very dare you? So
that's actually quite. In
truth, I really.
That is quite deep. I sort of went. That's sort of like.
I genuinely don't watch a lot of stand up. I love it.
It's like a snake eating its tail.
I love watching my buddies do stand up. That's what I like watching.
Yeah.
I like watching. Like I was on a cruise ship a week or so ago, and it was myself and Justine Smith and Michelle A. Court and Jeremy Elwood, Heath Franklin Chopper, Harley Breen, Cal Wilson and Rusty Bertha doing a comedy festival cruise. And we did like 2 45-minute sets each in varying venues, and it was just wicked, man. Like just watching your buddies smash big rooms. It's great. That always brings me so much joy, watching my friends just kill a big room.
Would you be a cruise ship guy if you didn't work on them doing comedy? They're a sort of an interesting environment, aren't they?
They are an interesting environment. My first experience I didn't necessarily enjoy, and my second experience I enjoyed, but that was a unique environment, and I think it was more set up to be enjoyable for me. So that everyone was on the cruise to come and see comedy shows.
Oh, it was a comedy cruise. Wow.
Yeah. And it was great. Like my first show was so packed. They put me in a 100-seater, and my first show was so packed they turned away like 300 people.
So where do they run that out of? New Zealand? They have a
we left from Auckland. We went out to the harbour.
So there's a New Zealand company that does New Zealand stand-up
this
cruise.
This was through Sit Down, I believe, which is Brisbane based or Gold Coast based.
Sounds like Motorhead's Motorboat.
It was cool, man. And I even make a joke on stage that cruise ships are where entertainers go to die.
What was that?
But I think there's some instances where there's an exception to that rule.
So you meaning that it's sort of it's a naff gig?
Hey, look, I was talking to someone about this last night, and they had recommended to them that they shouldn't do cruise ships because it might affect their image, and I can understand someone saying that. But at the end of the day, cruise ships pay money, more money than you're going to make in a weekend. So, so just pull your head out of your fucking ass and just go and do a show.
That whole thing with like selling out and not selling out. Actually, I'll tell you something interesting about young people in a sec to do with selling out. Don't let me forget. But I think from my own experience, with creative endeavours is only when you are compromising yourself, and when that has happened to me in the past, it's when I feel dirty or bad about doing something.
Right.
So if you enjoyed it, you did it with mates. And by the way, the whole reason I asked about cruise ships wasn't even loaded with any of that. I hadn't thought about that. Right. But I get what you mean now. It's sort of like hidey high. That's right. It can be. But I think only you are a judge of your creative integrity and how you feel about your career and your work. And anyone else who's going to load that stuff on you can fuck off.
Well, man, look, it's. You know what? It's 45 minutes of stage time. Yep. It's reasonable money. It's an audience that
it's 24-hour buffet.
Dude, yeah.
I'd come back like.
And it's a really challenging environment to put out the ideas that I want to put out on stage. It's just another way to test myself. I'm from that. Like when I started,
it's all working
in comedy,
out, isn't it?
When I started in comedy, if you got $50 and the opportunity to sleep on a floor in Taupo, you'd go and do that 20 minutes, even though you didn't have 20 minutes. You go and do all of the shit gigs.
Hey, where'd you cruise? Where'd you go anyway? Around the islands? Where'd you go?
All around.
That's so cool.
Wherever I could.
Yeah.
Wherever I could get stage time. If there was a pub with a microphone in the corner, I'd go there and I'd just do some jokes.
Anyway, so Selling Out. I saw a doco that's very of our generation. It's very, I'm sort of Gen Y, Gen X cusp, but you are from that era where, like, kind of apathy, blah, blah, blah. It's like selling out, corporate, da-da-da-da-da. There was a doco I watched a wee while ago now where they asked a new generation of kids about selling out, and most of them didn't even know what the term meant.
Right.
So it's sort of like the idea of selling out now isn't even in the vernacular.
Yeah, no, I really enjoy eating and surviving. So if it pays, I'm going to do it. There's some things I won't do. You've got to have some level, I think. Yeah. But you know what? I want to
close on that. You do hey, we've been here an hour and 17 minutes. You're supposed to react to that. Wow, really, have we? It's felt like 20 minutes.
Well, it went very quickly.
Thank you.
No worries. Did you get the content that you wanted? Has this worked out as you expected?
I don't have it. I have a few ideas. I have some bullet points on the screen, but otherwise, I think if I plan too much, they're not conversations and they don't go. Yeah. So after the end of that, you reminded me one thing on my list that I hadn't talked about is. I think through something I was reading about with you and Reese, you're a big food guy. Are you into cooking and stuff as well?
Love my cooking, man. Yeah, that's my zen space.
We could do another same. That's how I relax.
I love it.
Relax. Yeah. What sort of stuff do you like cooking?
Dude, I want to put a sofrito on and I just want to let it sweat and do its thing. Nice. Those smells do something spiritual to me. Yeah. And I've also established that I have an emotional place in my heart for the cheeseburger as a concept. It's like I have this real burger. When I was in LA, I was trying all the Impossible patties. Yeah. And it was just like, oh, dude, it was beautiful. I saw the future. Yeah. And the future is meat-free.
Really?
Yeah, it's
So
amazing.
You're going to stop eating meat?
I'm going to certainly cut down on it.
Okay.
But nothing cooks like meat yet.
No, but you're right.
I still like putting a big slab on a barbecue for 12 hours and standing around contemplating the meaning of life, the universe, and what kind of sauce I'm going to make.
Hey, well, listen, man. I'm gonna wrap it up, and I'm gonna say that I need to get out and watch more shows, so I'm gonna come and see you live. But the stand-up I watched today, I already figured out I liked you and wanted to talk to you, and I talked to Brendan and stuff as well. But I really, really liked the videos you've got up online. I like your timing. I like your feel. I like your wordplay. I like your stage presence. And it's really cool to hear that you're doing a special, and I think you're playing it down. But I'd say I haven't heard of something like you're doing coming out of New Zealand yet. So if that's this part of the process of going to LA as well, it's like, go well, bro. Thanks for coming in, man.
Hey, thanks for having me. This has been great.
All right.
It really helped me to sort of firm up my idea of what the meaning of life is, and I'm going to lay that down on you. And I know that it's quite an arrogant thing for humankind, to think that there's any sort of point to this life whatsoever. But I've had across a little idea that I think sort of sums up what we're all trying to do. And it's a very simple idea. Life, to me, seems like a series of different-sized boxes. I'll explain. The theory works like this. Because you were made inside a type of box, and then you come out of a type of box. And then you have to sleep in a little box until you're big enough to be able to sleep in a bed, which itself is housed in a box, big enough to house you, the box you came out of, and the box's matching plug. And then as a kid, you go and you play in the sandbox, don't you? And you go to the Christmas tree, you want the biggest box underneath the Christmas tree. And then you go to school, you have lessons inside a box. And then as a teenager, you're trying to figure out which box you actually fit into. And then you move out of the family box and into a shared box, and you get your license, and you drive around in a piece of shit box. Then you go to university where they teach you to think outside the box. But as a 20-something-year-old male or gay female, all you really want to do is think your way into as many boxes as possible until you find the one box that you prefer over all other boxes. And then you, in your new favourite box, you move out of the shared box and into your own box, and you go to work in a little box to be able to buy a ring, which itself comes in a little box, to be able to give to your favourite box, to prove to that box you're going to love that box and only that box for as long as you both shall live. Then you go to work again in your little box to be able to buy a bigger box to house you, your favourite box, and all of the little people that have been squeezed out of your favourite box. Which, for the record, completely ruins your favourite box. And then what you do is you train the little people that you've created to grow up and move out of the family box, and they do, and this is where you start downsizing boxes. You go from a family box into a two-person box into a retirement box, and then you die and you get buried in a box. Or you get cremated and put into an even fucking smaller box. Now, sometimes the cycle is broken because the family released that out into the open. Other times, you're knocked over at a party, you vacuumed up, and you're back inside another box. So As far as I can tell, life is a series of different sized boxes. Next fucking question. Bam! I'm Jamie Bowen. Have a good night. Thank you.